Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ariella Indigo and I'm your host for the Multidimensional Human Experience Global Summit. So really the reason that this summit felt so important for me to create is due to an experience that I had about 2.5 years ago now, which completely shifted the way that I viewed reality forever. I really connected in with my multidimensional nature, which was a total surprise to me that I even had one. And since then, I felt very passionately drawn to raising awareness in society about other realms and realities of existence, and also to really help fellow sensitives to push past their challenges so that they can evolve spiritually and align with their missions. That's really what I stand for and what I hope this summit is going to give to you guys who are tuning in and watching. So in today's interview, I'm honoured to be joined by Richard Rudd, who's the creator of the incredible Gene Key system, whose work I connected with at the start of 2016. And I was absolutely blown away by how accurate my profile was in terms of really telling me my entire life story, and then illuminating a path for me to walk down in order so that I could evolve spiritually and reach my highest potential. It's been really amazing connecting with Richard's work, and I'm totally going to give him the opportunity to share it with you because it has genuinely changed my life. So Richard, thank you so much for being here and for the incredible help that you've given me in my own mission. And I'd like to start, if we can, just by inviting you to tell the viewers a bit about yourself, your story, and also what you feel your mission and purpose is.
Well, thanks, Ariella. It's lovely to be here, and welcome everyone. I think I begin by saying I'm a very ordinary man, and I have a family and young kids, and within all that, ordinary reality, and I'm a very hands-on father as well. Another existence or another stream of consciousness has been integrated. I've had to integrate it because back in 1996, before I had my family and I was a kind of ordinary human being, I was a seeker, and then I had a massive experience that changed all that and set me on a new course. And I won't go into it in depth, but basically I was flooded with light for 3 days and 3 nights, and a sort of a wisdom transmission came into me. And like a memory, like a series of memories were released in my cells, in my physical body, and I became aware of other bodies that I had, other sort of more subtle layers of my being. And so for those 3 days and 3 nights, I was in a very, very heightened state of consciousness. And it was just completely spontaneous and a surprise, and there was nothing that brought it on. And so I spent a decade trying to integrate that experience, and probably another decade creating a way to express it. And I wrote this big book called The Gene Keys. I've got one here. There's the hard copy. There's a big book. Out of that has come a synthesis of world wisdoms. And that's how I've got here. And so I from the very beginning, I've had to integrate these 2 different life journeys. One very physical on the material, emotional plane, relationships, marriage, mortgages, children, and then this very heightened spiritual reality, and how to step that down and make it practical for people. And that's my mission, really. And that's what I'm doing.
Amazing. Yeah, I find that really interesting what you've just said, because I really relate to needing to keep everything going on the physical plane, as well as having these sort of heightened experiences which you're trying to integrate. And I think, one of the reasons that I wanted to create this summit is because people hear the word multidimensional and instantly it sort of evokes thoughts and ideas of, higher planes of existence. But of course, multidimensional, it very much includes the physical. And as we're here as physical, human beings, we have to attend to this plane of existence as well. So thank you for your intro there and for including that about the physical plane, because I think this is a very important part that sometimes people forget about, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, people, there's a lot of access nowadays to the higher planes, perhaps more than there ever has been, and so many people, probably many who are watching and listening to this, have had experiences of those higher realities, and many of us have a lot of difficulty integrating them, making sense of them, and bringing them down into our bodies and remaining healthy and balanced and integrated into society in a kind of easy way. And I think that's definitely the challenge of our times, and I'm doing my utmost to help in that. I have had no choice because it's been set up that way for me, and there's been times I've been very kind of annoyed about that. I go, why can't I just, have been, my life set up differently, so I had some cave somewhere, and then I could just do only this, and but I don't think that that's how renunciates operated in the past. But I think nowadays the agenda is different, and what people need is to bring these layers into the fabric of, what most people call reality, our kind of everyday reality.
Yes. Well, that's what I love. One of the things that I love about the Gene Keys system that you've brought through, because it does really give you that total kind of illumination, first of all, into your own inner programming, and why, you're creating the experiences that you're creating in your reality. But it also gives you very much that path in how, really what you've come here to learn, and how you can, it's about evolution, isn't it? How you can evolve spiritually in this lifetime. So you seem very much, you're anchoring that one. I know there's other stuff that you do as well, but you seem a very grounded anchor in society about evolution to me.
Yeah, that is the fundamental stream, evolution. We know about evolution. That's it's a common theory, and we've been exploring it through many sciences, and how it works. And obviously, the Gene Keys, the name of the Gene Keys is about our DNA. It's about unlocking the higher purpose hidden in our DNA. That's the name of my book. Because there's something hidden inside us, and it's actually in our physicality. The DNA is the last line of our physicality. It's as small as it gets, almost, before we go into the atomic structure. So it's the last line of our cellular reality. We're talking about very tiny, phosphate molecules inside us that are coded with different frequencies, and that different frequencies unlock the layers that are hidden inside us. So the whole premise behind the Gene Keys is that there is this higher purpose. It is hidden in the physicality, and it's not up there in the clouds. It's right deep buried in the form, and that's what is the most important thing to realize. And I've always said to people, the way to heaven is not up, it's down.
Yes.
It's not out, it's in. And so, and I'm not, I'm not the first person to say that by a long shot, but it certainly is the wisdom and the truth that I'm kind of bringing here.
And I think it's great to be reminded of that, because, as you say, a lot of us are having these heightened experiences, and we can forget about, looking within. So, I think that's a key message.
And you need to, have a healthy body, and you need to eat well, and you need to, have a balanced emotional life and all these things in order that you can integrate those higher dimensions. And a lot of the time, I do meet people and I find people, and people find the Gene Keys or me, and they've had some big experience, and it's kind of short-circuited some aspect of them because there's some aspect of their real life that they have neglected. And it might be their relationships, or it might be their physical, body, or it might be that they've been too extreme in their spiritual practice in some way, and they've neglected like some basic layers. Or one of the other common things is that they feel cut off from their community because they've kind of gone into this whirlpool of higher forces, and then actually they don't actually connect with many people nowadays don't connect with their local community, the place where they actually live, the people who actually see on the street, as they walk each day. We're all doing a lot of stuff online, and it's great, but actually paying attention to what's around you is of vital importance, because that is what your physical body is nourished by, those relationships, those people, those connections that are actually outside your door. And so that's another example of ways in which we cut ourselves off from integrating the spiritual dimensions into our everyday lives.
And I think that's also where because it's a great point. And, I relate to that from a personal point of view, the struggle to balance the physical and the spiritual, particularly after going through these big experiences. And I know many other people do as well. And that's one of the things that I really, that really spoke to me about the Gene Keys work, is going through, it's the golden path, isn't it, that you call it, which is the, I'll let you talk about it more. Go on, actually, Richard.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, in Gene Keys, one of the first things you might come to if you go to the website, for example, is your profile. You get a profile, a hologenetic profile, I call it. And the profile is a synthesis of different things, astrology and, all kinds of other layers from systems that have been integrated. And the profile allows you to go on a journey, so it's not like a normal profile where it tells you kind of who you are and what you're here to do and those kind of things. That is hidden inside it, but it's kind of hidden inside you. So the profile is it points you towards yourself. And you go on this journey, because at the beginning you get it and you can get it downloaded for free instantly, and then you're looking at it going, what the heck does all this mean? And it's a big journey, and but you can do it in stages and layers, and the journey, as you said, is called the golden path, because it's a path where you understand step by step what each part of the profile means, and there's a sequence that you move through the profile. First of all is purpose, and then the second part is partnerships, and the third part is prosperity. Those three layers, and they have to go in that order, because that's the order in which they naturally unlock. So you can't get prosperity without first of all sorting out partnerships. Not true prosperity. You can't. You can have money, but that's not prosperity. Money is not prosperity. Prosperity is health. It's it's your full life. So that's kind of the end of the rainbow, but the beginning is purpose. What is your purpose, and how do I anchor in my purpose? And I'll talk maybe more about that later. But the profile guides you through these sequences step by step, and you use your everyday life as kind of the muse, as your sounding board as you're doing this journey. So it's not some journey you do off in your head, a meditative journey where you're kind of connecting angels or whatever. It's not like that. It has those dimensions woven into it, but it's very much in your everyday life. So it has an effect on your everyday life. So it improves your everyday life and your experience, and your relationships. And that's what we need the most, right? The relationships in front of us, the real deep anchoring of our purpose in our bodies, so that our body is resonating with that purpose, and then we don't have to kind of worry about things so much in our life. We don't get caught into traps of anxiety, of worrying, and those kind of pressured spinning games that we get caught up in, that we're so busy that we miss life. those kind of things are all tackled in the Golden Path, one at a time, one by one. So it's very methodical in that way. It's very practical. And it's an online program, so you just go in, you sign up, you get each step, and each step kind of unravels, and you learn about the gene keys. There are 64 gene keys, these codes, and there are certain ones that relate to you. So you'll have a gene key that's specifically for your purpose, and you'll have a gene key that's specifically about your health, and you'll have a gene key that's specifically about your challenge. And as you begin to contemplate and unwrap those and unpack their meaning in your life, you get to see them and the process playing out in your life, and then you get to resolve some of those issues. So it's not an instant thing, it's an ongoing journey, that it gets deeper and deeper in layers.
Yeah, it's certainly been, from everything that I've explored, it is the fastest way to raise consciousness that I've come across, and to go really deep inside your programming. I mean, I had been doing a lot as a sensitive person, and I want to speak more about this point later on, because I know with our viewers, we will have a lot of sensitives who are watching this summit. And as any empath or sensitive knows, it can be a gift and a curse, having these sensitivities. And certainly, for many years when I was growing up, I struggled. I had, challenges around my sensitivities, a lot of confusion. And because we're living in this society which doesn't really understand properly yet this area in the mainstream, there wasn't a lot of support for me, which is the case for many other people. So I had been on a journey of really facing my challenges, moving past some very uncomfortable situations and feelings that I had, and I'd been doing a lot of work on myself. We hear that phrase a lot. But when I connected with the gene keys, it was like, whoa, okay, this is another level of awareness that it's a much deeper level of consciousness. What it brings up into your consciousness is another layer entirely. It's been so helpful.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hear that often from people, and it's very heartening, obviously, for me, because you put something out on the web and you don't really know where it's going, and it's gone very global. But every now and again, I hear some of this feedback, and often the feedback is something like, "Wow, this has saved my marriage," or "Wow, this has really helped me get a health issue back online." It's grown up inside a kind of very physical life. This very spiritual transmission I've had to apply it to kind of my relationships, and the issues of dealing with children and impatience and all the things that come up when you're in that sort of environment, and the real, and money, and just real things. And I've used the gene keys as my tool to help me kind of have a smooth pathway through that realm. So I think it's also a paradox in a way that the very highest levels of consciousness require the very deepest levels of grounding.
Yes.
And certainly, when I had my experience in 1996, and I was just blasted by this light, this vast field of light. I mean, my aura stretched out miles, literally miles. With my fingers, I could feel cities, and, how do you come back from something like that?
Yeah.
How do you come back?
Yeah.
And this is how I came back. I was placed in this very grounded life, and I was kind of literally told in some way, get real, bring it back and make it applicable for everyday people, even though it still has this very spiritual flavor, and the language is spiritual, and every gene key, for instance, has these three levels: the shadow, and the gift, and the siddhi. And the shadow is is the challenge that we have to face. You know, so I mentioned before, you know, you might have the gene. I mean, I don't know, I can't remember what yours are, Ariella, but
I can tell you. I'm
tell
happy
us.
to have a private reading.
Give one. So it's a good example.
Okay, let's go for 7 because that's in my life's work.
Okay, good one. So the 7th gene key, so it's a shadow of division, right? And the gift of guidance.
Another one. I'm joking.
Yeah. And the gift of guidance, and the siddhi. The siddhi is the highest essence. Is what's the highest essence of that one? Virtue. Virtue.
Yes.
You know, so that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, guidance, virtue.
It is virtue. Yes, yeah. It is.
So, you know, the division is the shadow, and it's, you know, and that gene key has a lot to do with our kind of, well, if you look at it as, you know, it's our deepest virtue. What is it that, you know, gets in the way of our virtue? It being expressing our true inner virtue, and virtue is light. You know, it's our inner light shining out. And so anything that divides us, you know, and most of us living kind of quite divided lives, you know, so you have this existence on the spiritual realm, but then you don't want to deal with the material stuff, or you're one of those people that has really kind of, you live a material life, but you don't have any idea that there's anything else. Yeah. You know, that it's a life divided. We all, or you're very good, you know, with money, but your relationships are a mess, or vice versa. All these divisions.
Doesn't sound like me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I relate. In the past, there was a lot of division, and I was divisive. You know, people, you know, they would either get me or they wouldn't.
So, you know, the journey of wholeness, you know, for you is kind of seeing, well, what is my core virtue? And then at the same time as kind of nurturing that, you know, that expression of your virtue. And virtue is always selfless, you know, so what is my selfless expression? You know, what is my highest nobility that I can offer to the world? You know, that's a question the Gene Keys always ask, like, what is the greatest service I could possibly envisage that I could offer the world? That is a question that comes out of our virtue. And then the center is the gift. The gift is what's hidden in the shadow. As you embrace the shadow, as you notice it, as your awareness grapples with it in your life. So you go and you say, well, where am I divided? Where is my life divided? Oh, here and here. It's definitely divided. So you don't actually have to then try and force it to come back together. Your awareness actually is enough. Just being aware of it. And in Gene Keys, you know, the process is one of contemplation. You enter into contemplation of that division, and you just wrap yourself around it, your awareness, and you watch it and you observe it, and you feel the discomfort. But that awareness begins to change it and transform it. And then a gift emerges, you know, and the gift emerging out for you is this gift of guidance, you know, and the guidance is inner guidance. And it's not necessarily like, you know, Archangel Metatron coming and telling you to, you know, what to do with your life and where to go and put this crystal over there or whatever. It's actually more of a guidance that's saying, you know, the way you said that really hurt that person, you know, and the guidance is kind of then leading you on a journey and going, well, you know, the next time maybe you can say that, you can not say that, or, you know, so it's teaching you practical things. It's your heart's guidance, you know, and it's really what it is. It's the heart starts to then speak and, you know, speak through us. And that's the expansion that heals the division, you know, as the heart comes online. And I mean, the spiritual heart comes online inside us, and we begin to kind of act as though we were love, you know, and the love leads us. So before we then make a decision or have a conversation or, you know, jump on someone, the question is like, well, what's love going to do here now? So we have a moment of pause before we leap in, and that moment of pause changes everything. And that's when the guidance of the heart starts to inform our life and starts to knit back together those divisions. And then the virtue is shown to be there underneath, because it can then shine out because we have a balanced life. Because the virtue can't shine through a divided life. You know, if your relationships are a mess, but your spirituality is great, your connection, you know, how can the virtue shine there? It can only shine in one place. So you've got this kind of shadow that's then going, oh, I wish I didn't have that issue. Everything's good except this area, and you can guarantee that this area, the one where the challenge is that's the area where you need to shine the light.
Yeah.
And that's what the Gene Keys do. They take you into that shadow pattern, and they help you to be compassionate about that pattern towards yourself, and therefore towards others. And that's what heals it.
Yeah, that is.
So, don't know if that resonates with you.
Well, just a little bit, yeah. Funnily enough, yeah. I mean, I love shadow work, and I love, how the Gene Keys, it brings this stuff to consciousness, and then, like you said, it's not impossible to carry on behaving in the same way. Of course, you can choose to do that, but it becomes more and more uncomfortable.
It does.
You're now aware, of these behaviors, but I also really appreciate it how it's written in such a compassionate way, in a way that allows you to see your shadows and shows you the path, but also a way that allows you to embrace the shadow at the same time, embrace these challenges, and it just makes it a very sort of accepted, like, human experience. Like, yeah, of course, we've all got stuff going on for us. It's normal. It's human. I really like that.
The shadow is really it's something we have to bring close. It's actually, in one level, it's our ally, because it's where the transformation is hidden, and it's the last place many of us want to look. But it's you just need to focus the lens there, and then you find that there's some secret hidden inside it. So it takes a little bit of courage, but then once you've done it a few times, it starts to take on its own rhythm, and your life begins to really change, and your heart begins to really open and stay open. Yeah,
I agree. Amazing. Okay, so let's go on to another trajectory for a few moments, and let's talk about sort of the multi-dimensional human experience. And I know you've got some incredible knowledge around this and insight, which is covered mostly within the 55th Gene Key, as it's called, in your system, where it's talking about this genetic mutation that is taking place on the planet. And there's some dates and various things that people have given to us, to consider. But could you talk a bit more about that, please, Richard, in terms of how you understand that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say also that if people go to my website, and I think it's somewhere in there, yes, in genekeys.com, and you go into, I think it's maybe under Richard Rudd, or it's under resources, and there's lots of articles in there, free articles, and there's one on the 55th Gene Key, and you can read it. I mean, it's actually the book. It's the Gene Key from the book. And it's about 20 pages. It's much longer than all the others because it contained a transmission that surprised me when I wrote the book, because it suddenly expanded. Like, all the others had this pattern of Shadow Gift City, and then this one suddenly just opened up this prophecy.
It's amazing. I really recommend people to do that.
So it's too long to explain in detail, obviously, but it is about a transitionary epoch that we're in, and it's also very prophetic, this Gene Key, because it's the Gene Key of freedom, and what it's doing is it's freeing us on all levels inside ourselves. So it's freeing us to actually experience our multidimensional self, but it's also freeing us so that we can integrate those higher aspects down into the lower aspects, so it's what I call the lower trinity and the upper trinity, these two aspects coming together, in the stream of involution and evolution coming to meet each other. And it's actually something that's taking place, as I understand it, inside our DNA as a species. So we're going through a change, and new children that are coming into the world are carrying this mutation. And there are many earlier forms of it. It's almost like there are prototypes already out there. Many of us are those prototypes. And it's so we have access to layers and levels of consciousness that people in the past, or our parents, things like that, grandparents, didn't really understand. Some did, but many didn't. And we're having to try and understand that inside ourselves, and because there's information that's given to us, and wisdom that we seem to kind of have inherited, and in the form of light. And so the 55th gene key describes this process on a planetary scale, but also on an individual scale. And if you come to the gene keys, the symbol you'll see used over and over again, it's on the front of the book and everywhere, is the dragonfly. And the dragonfly, the story of the life cycle of the dragonfly perfectly kind of encapsulates this mutation, this transmutation, because the dragonfly lives as a underwater larvae, as a predator, for 3 years of its life, and it doesn't know, that it has another life hidden inside it. It's just a very successful underwater predator, and so that's how it lives. But then one day, some sleeping gene inside it is triggered, and it does something very unique, and it finds a stalk of grass or a reed, and it climbs up that grass into the light, and it's never left its underwater environment before, and suddenly when it's out in the open, the sun starts to kind of work on it. And then it opens up, and this, it starts to crack open the back of its back, and then this thorax appears in the eyes, and these incredible eyes that are multidimensional. If you look at dragonflies' eyes, you just see this fractal kind of eye that just sees things that you can't imagine what it's like transitioning from being that underwater kind of shadow creature, and then suddenly having this like multidimensional world of color. Because the dragonfly is just like this effervescent creature, and then these wings start to appear, and it's and then it takes to the air, and it's
great
quite
metaphor.
It's quite a metaphor. It's in a way more appropriate than the caterpillar and the butterfly, because the movement from water to air is the transition that I understand through the 55th gene key, and the gene keys, the whole gene keys message is that's our transition. It's the transition from the astral nature or our emotional nature, our desire nature, to the to this super nature,
right.
Which is a whole other being that is hidden inside us, that is emerging, and that has a completely different reality. It flies.
Yeah.
And you can't even compare, and many of us are in this molting stage. Our back is cracking open, and we're in this kind of like, and we're trying to make sense of that. And so that's what the 55th gene key helps us with. It helps us to understand that we're not alone, and that many of us are moving through it, and the whole planet is slowly moving through it. And there are dates that were given, because there are dates. The precession of the equinoxes are moving. Everything's moving. And they're not they're markers rather than kind of days where we should go and sit on a mountain and wait for something amazing to happen. And things may.
2012, we've learned from that.
Well, 2012 was one, and then 2027 is one that's given in my book also, as a, so we're in this phase between those dates where that, for many people, that dragonfly is approaching and kind of completion over the next decade. So it's a very intense decade that we're now living in because of that.
Exciting. So exciting. That is an incredible metaphor. And I know that many people who are watching this interview are totally going to identify with that transformation, and suddenly being, going through the awakening experience, particularly around being a multidimensional human and, being in this new reality. That's a really cool metaphor. Thank you for that. So we've spoken a little bit about this already, but I'm really keen to give the viewers any tools, techniques, tips. I mean, we've got like all of you incredible teachers and experts that we're interviewing, and like I say, there's a big sort of thing that I stand for is helping people to push past their sensitivities, because a lot of people, as we know, and it's a sad truth and a sad reality, particularly the younger children, like you said, who are coming in and they have this new genetic, they're the new humans. A lot of them are just not getting up and running in society because of their sensitivities. So Richard, from your point of view, what would be your advice around how people can best manage these sensitivities so that they can actually deliver what they've come here to deliver?
Well, for me, there's a real kind of yardstick that always lets me know, and anyone really, how someone is doing in terms of how they're integrating sensitivity into the kind of this waking reality, this ordinary reality around us. And that is through our relationships, and how our relationships are operating, and are they operating smoothly? And so, in the middle part of the Golden Path is devoted to that. And it's actually the real kind of challenge of the Gene Keys, that part, because you'll know, because you've done it yourself, and it asks you some very deep questions. Yeah. And it shows you the wounding patterns that you've inherited, specifically, very, very specifically, in your profile. And then it allows you to understand them and then begin to unpick them. And that work, which I call the Venus work, because it is a feminine transmission, essentially, because it's the opening of the heart. That work is the entire work. There's grounding in the physical body, and that's essential. And then there's this work of like healing the emotional body. Yeah. And, many people who have sensitivity, what they feel is overwhelm, and particularly through relationships. So what happens is that those patterns of our wounding from our childhood tend to close off our kind of hearts and emotions to others, because that's a natural reflex. Like if you feel threatened by someone in some way, then your natural reflex is to close off. What the Venus sequence teaches you is the opposite. It's very radical. It teaches you to soften and open and trust and expand. So when someone challenges you, it doesn't mean you kind of take it, but it does mean that you don't have to kind of close off and defend. It means that you take a breath and you learn to bring that heart back from the brink. And that's a process. It takes time to learn it, but we can learn it, and we have to learn it. And that's the thing about sensitivity, is that sensitivity is not a weakness. Sensitivity is a strength. And so we have to kind of adapt that strength to meet the world and to meet challenges and to meet sometimes unpleasant words and unpleasant people, and to be able to forgive them and to be able to stay open and to be able to kind of expand more, not contract and hide away and go, well, I can't deal with that person. You can always guarantee that the person that you feel you can't deal with is the one that you need the most to learn from. They're the one you actually need to go towards, not away from. Yeah. No, I don't mean like, yes, come and kind of give it to me. I mean like the one that you really need to listen to. Yeah. Because they're teaching you something incredibly valuable. They're teaching you self-respect. They're teaching you self-forgiveness. They're teaching you all these heart lessons. So that, for me, is one of the real key journeys that everyone has to go through. No one can sidestep that. No one. Yeah. There is no option of sidestepping relationships. No. So that is, why I kind of, that teaching was taught to me, the Venus sequence, and I recommend it to everyone, and it's very accessible as well, but very, very profound. I know.
Yeah. It's not for the faint-hearted, but I feel that everybody should push themselves to get into that one, because it's the one which has got the most transformative power to it. And actually the one, because we're also triggered by our relationships, the one that holds the greatest gift for happiness for us all.
Exactly. I mean, doesn't it always come back to love? Always.
Yeah, always.
Everything, every question always comes back to love.
Yeah.
So we have to learn to love, and that's how we learn, through our relationships. And it's just that simple. You don't need, you don't need multidimensional kind of dragonflies. You actually just need to know how to love, and how to receive love, and how to kind of gently bring your heart back to life. And that requires real softness and deep surrender and courage. And it's the best work there is. I mean, there's this saying that I have in the Venus sequence, in that part of the kind of system, that is the purpose of non-love is to create more love. Yes. So when we are, that's alchemy, right? So when we are confronted by a non-loving state in someone else, then we actually can create more love out of that state. And that's like, wow, imagine if you can do that. That means that whatever life throws at you, you can become more loving. And in fact, you can throw really some nasty things at you, or really some, difficult people or difficult feelings. And actually you can create more love out of those things, instead of going, oh, I'm going to close off to that. I don't want that person. I'm leaving. We're stopping that relationship. I'm going to go and look for another one.
Yes.
No. That is the one. Unless it's like physically abusive, in
Sure.
which case,
yes.
you leave. But, if otherwise you're running from yourself, you're running from the possibility that you can open your heart more. So I always say to people that the relationship that they have is the perfect one.
Yes.
And that's where your juice is, and that takes a lot of courage.
A lot of courage.
Yeah.
And, it's that saying, I talk about, I say this a lot actually in my life, the only way through is through. That is the only way that I have been able to deal with my sensitivities, is by just keep on going, to learn some, to have some techniques and, some strategy behind that, but not use my sensitivities as a block or an excuse not to go through that pain threshold. And it sounds a bit kind of, masochistic, but that is where my relief has come from. If I keep on avoiding things because it's overwhelming me, like you say, the lesson doesn't go away. It will come through from another relationship or, another experience in life. So, I think that is a really fantastic tool and solution that you are offering people today, to consider the Venus sequence, as it's called, the second part of the golden path, to do that heart work within your relationships so that you can ultimately reach the other side. It's not fixed.
Yeah. No, it isn't. I mean, but if you think about it, the only thing that protects you in life is deeper love.
Yeah.
The only thing.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to go.
Yes.
So we use everything, especially in our relationships, as a means of accessing deeper love. And you're right. You have to go through, but you do get through. That's the heartwarming message, is that you do get through. It does work. That it does get lighter. Relationships do get easier. The heart does learn how to come back to life. You have to just remember.
Amazing.
So it's worked. It works.
Amazing. So we've got a few minutes left. There's a couple of points that I really want to touch on before we end the interview, and I want to get you a free gift as well, because it's a very it's an incredible free gift that I want you to talk to everybody about. A very generous offering indeed. But And I think I know the answer to the next question, which is around, because I really, like I said, I feel passionately about helping people to push past these sensitivities, to manage their sensitivities. But ultimately, I want everybody to connect with their missions, because wouldn't the world be a much better place if we were all aligned with our missions? So what is your solution for that, your suggestions around that, Richard?
Well, it's the name of my book, Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden in Your DNA. We all have that purpose. How we discover that purpose, there are many different ways and routes. Gene Keys is just one. And I found it to be a good one because it often does things that you don't expect. And one of the things, this is also connected to the gift I'm offering people who come to this program is, I might as well just say I'm offering part one of the Golden Path program at a 50% discount for anyone that comes off this. So originally it's already good value at $64, right? Which is like, considering what you get, it's like really good value.
You get a lot.
And so you're going to get it for $32, which is, we were saying, it's like, I don't know, the cost of an expensive haircut if you're a man, and a cheap one if you're a woman. So like, you get your purpose for that. What it does is it shows you these 4 gene keys that are to do with your life purpose. And so it's not just telling you though, it's actually unlocks a sequence inside you. It's called the activation sequence. And those sequence of gene keys, they confront you immediately with a challenge, and the challenge is already in your life. So you'll recognize it. It's unique to each person. And you have to really look at that challenge and embrace that challenge, whatever it is for you, and then through meeting that challenge over and over and over again in your life, through transforming that shadow, your purpose is what emerges from that. And your purpose is always, it's interesting because it's more to do with your being than it is to do with doing.
Yes.
So in a way, our sense of purpose is something that's in the cells of our body. And when we connect with that sense of purpose, what we feel is grounding. We feel grounded, which is why it's the beginning of the Golden Path. It's the beginning of your journey with the Gene Keys, because you've got to be grounded from the beginning. Before you think about doing the Venus work and go into relationships and that minefield, you have to connect with your purpose, because otherwise you have no grounding, and that other person, that relationship will just knock you off, as usually happens, So, but if you have that grounding in your physicality, in your body, and you feel that purpose, you can always return to it. And it's a place you can always feel safe inside yourself.
Yeah.
Even when you get knocked off, you can come back to it and you can go, this is me.
Yeah.
That was the other person. Now I can go and have a conversation again. Yeah. So it's where it all begins, really.
Yeah.
And so that is my offer for people if they want to look to, and it's the beginning of the Gene Keys as well. So it's very simply laid out. But that sense of purpose, each one of us has a siddhi, a kind of a divine essence, a word that connects with that purpose. What's yours?
On my life's work?
Your purpose.
Oh, my purpose. It's beauty.
Beauty. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is, so beauty then becomes for you, it's like beauty. What does that mean deep inside your being?
Yeah.
And that is then what you carry into every single thing you do, into every relationship, into every job, into every moment, into everything, because that's the underlying field of your purpose, and that creative energy that leads to creating beauty. And it means your whole life actually is a contemplation of beauty and
at
an expression.
Non-superficial level, although it often starts superficially, of course.
Yeah, because what is beauty really? It's not just on the surface. It's like it's an essence that we bring to the world. We bring to whatever we do. So the activation sequence leads you on this journey towards that core stability inside us, and that's what we really need in order to kind of have any chance in life of anchoring higher frequencies down into the form. So it's a wonderful place to begin.
Yeah.
And I hope that people will take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's an amazing system. It will change your life. You know, it's definitely one of those systems that will do that. And how everybody can access that is I'm sending out on the email where you've clicked on to view this video. There's a link underneath on the same email that you just click, and it will take you straight to Richard's gift. So yeah, that's,
and it's going to be up there, you know, for a limited time period only because of, you know, logistical things. So it's up there for the month of August. I think that's right.
Yes,
so that's take advantage of it, you know, in that time.
Yeah, it's at the end of the August we're taking it down. So yeah, everybody go and grab that. It's, you know, the price that Richard's offering it. It's an incredible price.
Yeah, I mean, you can see what it is when you go on, because you can do, you know, it has these steps. There are 10 steps, and the first step is free, so you can go in and have a look. And, you know, it's an online thing, and there is text, and there are, you know, files, and there are audios, and there are webinars, and there's an optional book that goes with it, which you can buy on Amazon. But you can get you know, if you don't want to buy that book, you can have, it's part of the program anyway, as PDFs, as text that you can read online.
Yeah.
So it's all there. You know, there's a lot woven into that. There's a lot of work went into it, so it's good.
Yeah, there's a huge amount there. Okay, Richard, that's been amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been well, certainly, you know, it's ticked a big box for me in terms of, you know, my bucket list on who I wanted to chat to before I pop off from the physical realm. You know, it's been an absolute honour to have you participate in the summit and to give this interview today. There's so much, you know, wisdom that you've spoken about, and, you know, a huge amount of tools and tips and fantastic metaphors. I just love all your metaphors, Richard. You, as a poet, you definitely have a way with words.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much, Richard, for this interview. I really appreciate it.
It's a real pleasure.
Bless you. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in as well and for watching this interview. I encourage you all to carry on watching the summit every day. I'm going to be sending you via email a new interview with a new speaker, new free gifts, new tools, techniques. So it's really an entire masterclass that you guys are getting about, you know, being multidimensional and how you can best connect with your mission. So please keep on tuning in each day. And thank you so much for watching. And I will see everybody tomorrow.
Bye.